Since 9/11, even images of Muslim people evoke responses of fear, mistrust, suspicion in the hearts even of Christian believers. But as Christians, we're taught by Jesus to love our neighbor as ourselves. How do we do that in the complex and challenging world in which we live in? We're going to talk about that today and more right here on Bridges.
Today on Bridges.
I want to welcome you to Bridges today. I'm Monica Schmelter, and we are going to open up the conversation of Christians reaching out to the Muslim community. And Matt, I want to welcome you to Bridges today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Now, when I first met you, it was, I believe, at an In the Line of Fire conference. It was really talking about, some of the great things that God is doing in the Middle East, and you're a part of the Crescent Project.
That's right.
And I'd love to hear a little bit about what the Crescent Project is about.
Sure. The Crescent Project is a national Christian ministry focused on equipping the church to share the gospel with Muslims. And
boy, when you say that,
yes,
one of my first thoughts, Matt, is that a lot of Christians, it's becoming more common for Christians now just to be openly hostile toward Muslim people.
Yes.
So when we say we're going to talk about Christians reaching out to Muslims and the Crescent Project, I can hear people almost in my head saying, well, why should we do that after everything that's happened?
Right. Well, one of the most important things we try to do with Crescent Project is get people to look at Muslims through the eyes of Jesus, to realize that the Great Commission includes all nations, all peoples, and there's not an asterisk by the Great Commission that says all nations except Muslim nations. And so we really want to try to get people to view Muslims through the eyes of Jesus with compassion and with love.
Because, one of the things that I always think about, and of course I've shared with you that, my grandfather was born in Pakistan and really came to America. He came illegally. He had a dream of a better life and wanting freedom. But because I have that in my background, I'm just so aware that if life was just a little bit different, I could have been born in a Muslim country.
That's right.
And I would have been as steeped in the traditions, the religion, the customs as anybody else.
That's right.
Do you sort of at Crescent Project, do you think of Muslims kind of in any way as a victim, like they were born there and that's just how it is?
Absolutely. In fact, one of the things that I share when I speak to groups is that the first victim of Islam is the Muslim person. And then until we see it that way, until we realize it that way, we really won't have the compassion that we need to have when we look at Muslims. They truly are persecuted in many ways, the way that women are treated, many times like second-class citizens and actually like property. Children, in a lot of ways, are persecuted. And they live in darkness. And so that's the reality. And so the first victim of Islam is the Muslim person.
Well, they live in darkness and without a lot of hope.
That's right.
And when I hear you say, that women are not treated well or treated like property, I guess one of the thoughts I have is like not even valuable property.
Right.
I look at, Muslim women and I think, oh, they don't know their value in Christ. They're not taught that, and little girls that are born aren't given any type of a hope for a future or for a life. Let's talk about some of that. What is life like for the average Muslim person?
Well, first you got to look at the family structure is really dysfunctional in many ways, especially because the husband can have up to 4 wives. And that can cause, obviously, a lot of problems right there.
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah. There's also, in the Islamic texts, permission given for the husbands to be abusive to their wives, to actually beat their wives, and to treat them like property, and to basically have all rule and authority over them. And so that's obviously creates a lot of dysfunction right there. And we also have a situation in Islam where there's child brides, where many young girls are married off at an early age to men. And this obviously is very damaging psychologically and physically, emotionally and spiritually to those kids. And so we see a lot of things like that. Honor killings, unfortunately, another way that Muslim people are persecuted, where the woman in many cases will offend in some way the husband or the family, bring shame to the family, and so that shame needs to be dealt with, and many times it's dealt with in the way of honor killings.
Okay, and when I hear you describe that, and perhaps those of you that are watching today, and you hear those things described like honor killings, a guy can have up to 4 wives.
That's right.
you know what I'm saying? Our blood kind of starts to boil. We
Yeah.
think, well, that's not right. Clearly, that's not right. And
Yes.
obviously, it's not right.
That's right.
It goes against the Bible and what Christ would teach. I think some of it just goes against common sense
It
anyway.
does. Yeah.
But I think we start feeling like self-righteous, like, well,
Right.
those are just horrible belief system. And I do
Right.
think it's a horrible belief system.
Yeah.
But it's easy to be hostile and angry
Right.
toward them rather than understanding
Right.
that Muslim man, this is what he's been taught since day
That's right.
one.
That's right.
So do they think they're right?
Well, and that brings up a good point. I think it's really, really important when I speak to groups and churches. One of the first things I do is help them make the distinction between Islam as a socio-political religious system and the Muslim person, which is the first victim of that system. And so we really have to make a distinction between the doctrine and the person that's really trapped in that doctrine, has been raised in it and that's been taught it and just really believes and just really has no other perspective because they've lived in it and they've grown up in it. So they do think they're right, but it's only because they haven't been shown another way or been led to another way.
Right, just
Yeah.
like I would be or you
Sure.
would be had circumstances just been a little bit different for
Sure.
us. And yet you're with Crescent Project,
That's right.
this work that really wants to help open up the Christian believers' eyes and hearts to see the Muslim person as the first victim
That's
of
right.
Islam.
That's right.
And to have that heart of compassion to love.
That's
and when
right.
you say that, I almost feel guilty saying, well, we need help doing this. But I
Sure.
shared with you, Matt, that I went to the store and the person that was taking care of me looked like a Muslim person because they had on the head garb and all of that. And I had the thought, I bet they hate me.
Yeah.
I bet she thinks I'm an infidel. I bet she doesn't like anything about me. And immediately, conviction came.
Yeah.
That instead of me wanting to build a relationship with her, I was giving in to, the thought of the day rather than being the Christian believer that I am.
Right.
And I
Right.
changed my tune and started making conversation with her.
Sure.
But it's easy, don't you think, to fall into that trap?
It is. It is. And that's why we believe at Crescent Project, our vision is that we see a day when fear is replaced with love and millions of Christians are actively sharing the truth of Christ with millions of Muslims for the glory of God. That's our vision. That's what we want to see happen as an organization. And so when you have love and you're filled with that love, it does replace that fear and it takes over that fear. And it helps disperse those prejudices and the things that we have and the natural reactions to the violence that we see and the things that are happening all around the world because it is legitimate. We do have legitimate concerns.
Right. And we have to address those
Yeah.
legitimate concerns and we have to protect ourselves in our country, but that doesn't stop us from loving Muslims
That's right.
or reaching out to them. And I think that's one of the things that we really need to understand and what I'm wanting to help us to do
Yeah.
and what you're here to do from
Yeah.
Crescent Project to help us do to understand that the Great Commission
Yes.
is important to Jesus.
Amen.
And it's important that all people come to him.
Yeah.
Sometimes, Matt, on the news, we hear about Islam and all of the bad things,
Yes.
but we don't hear the wonderful things that God is doing.
That's right.
Share
That's
with
right.
me some things that you can share about how
Sure.
God is bringing revival
Sure.
to the Muslim people.
This is the greatest story not being told right now. It is phenomenal. God is reaching Muslims all around the world, and
Amen.
more Muslims have come to Christ in the last 15 to 20 years than the previous 1,400 years combined.
Oh, no, you have to say that again, because
Yeah.
I remember when you
Yeah,
told me
yeah,
that,
yeah.
I was so excited.
Yeah, so more. What we're seeing is that in the past 15 to 20 years, more Muslims have come to faith in Christ than really all of their history going back 1,400 years. And we know this for a number of reasons. We know this in Crescent Project. Years ago, when we were started 20 years ago, in 1993, we would hear about conversions maybe a few times a year. Now we hear about them almost every week.
Wow.
And we hear about it, and we're seeing it all around the world. And we just, of course, one of the things I've told you about that's really exciting is that Jesus himself is visiting Muslims in their dreams. He's literally calling them out to leave Islam and to come follow him. And it's well documented. It's a well documented phenomenon. It's on YouTube. It's written in books. It's documentaries. It's fantastic, and it's a phenomenal. Well, it's exciting, and it's
Yes,
just
it
just to
is.
see it happen, to know that Jesus himself is going after Muslims in their dreams.
Because he goes out of his way,
Yeah.
to save all of us. That's the heart of God. He
Yeah.
sent Jesus that this world, everybody would not be condemned, but that we could be saved. And I shared with you, Matt, that my step-grandmother who was from Pakistan also and was a Muslim, you know, she had those divine visitations of Jesus making himself real to her so that she could become a Christian, so that she could be saved.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm sharing that only so that those that are watching can be excited that God is moving all over this world, regardless of what we see on the news.
Yeah.
And we can be a part of it.
Amen. Amen. And he
How
wants
can
us
we
to
be a part?
Well, and he wants us to be a part of it. You know, that's what the Great Commission's all about. First thing we need to do is pray. You know, pray for Muslims, and pray that they would have an open heart to hear, that Christians around them would reach out to them and take the initiative to do that. That's the first thing. Our strategy is pray, train, mobilize. And because nothing happens without prayer.
That's right.
It's the foundation for everything we do.
And you know, we've got to take a break here like in just a moment, but prayer would be, I would think, the foundation.
Absolutely.
Because we just wouldn't want to be going out there.
Right.
Because people are steeped in their traditions just like we are, but to pray for that receptivity.
That's right.
To pray for connections, and that we, I guess, would have the favor, because I would imagine it would be about establishing a relationship first.
Right. And really well, certainly we want to equip the average Christian out there with what this looks like. You know, how do you reach out to Muslims? How do you start the conversation? How do you understand their cultural differences and what to say and maybe what not to say and things to avoid? But we certainly want to start off with a prayerful attitude and a prayer such as, Lord, I'm prepared to share about you. Just open the conversation.
That's right, and to let him do the leading.
That's right.
We've got to take a little break. As we do that, we want to let you look at a trailer that Crescent Project has done to help us understand the Muslim community.
$1.2 billion Muslims today have never heard the words of Jesus. 7 million of them have moved to America, still waiting for an authentic Christian witness.
I was raised Shia Muslim, as if you lived in the Middle East. I mean, we heard the mosque going every day, 5 times a day. Like, you'd wake up at 5 in the morning and you'd hear Allahu Akbar in the background. I figured I was trying to find God.
When you show your Muslim friend that the Bible has never been changed, you've answered the most common question Muslims have. We see that God loves Muslims, and Muslims are not the problem. Muslims many times are the victim of a system that locks them in, and they need to hear that God loves them and has a wonderful plan for their life.
Both my parents, they're Muslim, and that put pressure on me and my whole family to start practicing Islam, to get involved, and I had a lot of questions. So I started going to church just because I want to know what are they saying about God. Because I know what they're saying about God in Islam, but I don't know really what they say about God in Christianity. But I wasn't really hearing what he was saying, because Christ, he was standing behind him and opening his arm, he says, I told you this is your day. And I'm looking, I'm crying. I was like, I don't know if this is a dream or real.
Millions of Muslims today are living in that fear of Judgment Day. They don't know where they will be going, heaven or hell. They don't know if their good works are going to outweigh their bad. They need someone to tell them about a Savior. They need someone to tell them about a Redeemer who can wash away their sin and cleanse them from all unrighteousness.
If you would like to purchase a copy of today's show for $15, you can send a check to the address on your screen or call us at 615-754-0039. be sure to mention the program number on the screen.
WHTN has helped local churches and ministries launch television ministries for years. Are you thinking about expanding into television ministry? WHTN has an all-new HD studio. It's affordable for local churches and ministries. You can contact WHTN for more information on our website, ctntv.org.
If you would like to contact WHTN, you can write to the address on the screen or call us at 615-754-0039 or visit us on the web at www.ctntv.org.
You're just joining us today on Bridges. We're talking about Christians reaching out and connecting with Muslims. And Matt Bonner from the Crescent Project is here with us. And Matt, we were talking about that, you know, first we obviously have to have that desire and that revelation that God loves all people.
Right.
Get beyond really the fear and the mistrust of 9/11, the image of a Muslim person, and have that prayerful heart that would say, God, help me to open up that conversation. And you were sharing with me that you have a prayer initiative with the Crescent Project. What is that, and how could people be involved with it?
Right, and I'd love for people to get involved with us in that. It's called a call to prayer, and it's just a bi-monthly email that we send out to our participants and people involved with Crescent Project. And it's just a very brief email, a call to prayer to pray about an initiative or a ministry endeavor that we're working on, or a news item or something that's in the news, something's happened. So much going on in the Muslim world, and so there's a lot to pray for. And so it's just a way that we can join together as believers to pray together. And so they can join on the website for that initiative. Yeah.
And we were talking about, actually, the name of the training program is
Yes,
Bridges, which is
right.
the same name as this show.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
Bridges is like a study, as
That's
I
right.
understand it, that churches, it's a DVD study.
That's right.
That churches can go through if they have a heart for Muslims.
That's right. Yeah,
Or
and
want to have a
yeah,
heart.
and this is it. The Bridges training program. It's a DVD study, and it's a 6-week small group study program, really designed to equip the average Christian out there with kind of the basics, the 101 about Islam, how it was started, about Muhammad, and how to start reaching out to Muslims, and what does that look like, and how to overcome their most common objections, which is many oftentimes the Bible's been corrupted, or you're polytheist, and that type of thing. So this helps Christians overcome their fear and really start to understand what it looks like to reach out.
Because, when we talked about it a little bit in the first segment, Matt, there is a lot of fear.
Yeah.
I mean, for the average American, we're afraid, not only politically speaking, and for our country, we've been told we're hated, we're the infidel. You hear about all that stuff and you think, okay, well, how could I reach out to them? They're not going to believe a word I say. They don't believe our Bible. And we don't understand necessarily their customs. I mean, when we hear that it's okay for a husband to beat his wife and to have up to 4 of them and child brides. I mean, it's just frightening to think about the culture. So this 6-week Bridges study helps us deal with that?
That's right. That's right. And it just helps to show that, we need to look at them like everybody else, and just to be prayerful, of course, to first and foremost help overcome our own fear and suspicion, but then also that we need to take the initiative, that it's up to us as Christians to take the initiative to walk across the street before we cross the seas, is what we say in Crescent Project, to welcome your Muslim friend. Most Muslims in America are never invited into a Christian home. And that's something that we're trying to overcome.
Because we're afraid to do that.
That's right. But so we have to overcome a lot of the objections and the misinformation about Christianity that Muslims are told and they're raised learning about. So we have to help overcome those misconceptions about what we believe and what Christianity is all about and what Jesus said.
Because Jesus would walk across the street.
That's right.
He would do that, and he would want us to do it as we're prayerful and watch for him to open up these doors and to open up these opportunities. How did you, because not that you're the average guy, but you understand what I'm saying. You don't have a Muslim background. How did you develop a heart for Christians reaching out to Muslims?
It's a great question. I get it all the time. And it's back in 2009, I started studying Islam, and I got invited to a meeting and just started learning about it, and was just really compelled by what I was learning, and just opened up a whole new world about it, and just really driven by really the political side of Islam, and really concerned about my country and about what's happening to America. So I really got into it from a political perspective. And then I started searching for, well, what is our response as Christians? What should we how should we handle the situation is certainly a very complex and difficult challenge for the church. And so Crescent Project came to Nashville to do their annual equipping conference, Oasis, in 2010, in the fall of 2010. And so a friend invited me to that conference. And I went to the conference, and there I saw what really started a transformation in my mind and heart about how to handle this. Is I watched a panel of believers from a Muslim background share their testimonies and share the courage and the passion they have for Christ, you know, to leave Islam, to walk away, and many times the face of persecution and death threats and that type of thing. And it was just really convicting to watch those courageous believers from a Muslim background. And at that point, I knew that it was a calling that I was going to be answering with my life. And it was really just focused on the idea that we as a church must restore the integrity of the Great Commission to include Muslims.
Yes.
You know, and that really struck me at that point, that this is something the church has got to awaken to.
Yeah.
And we believe that God's calling the church to awaken to this.
Well, I know that He is, because He loves all people.
Yeah.
He loves all people. And, you know, I was talking to someone, Matt, and the lady was asking me, well, do you think that, you know, if I pray for the peace of Jerusalem, then that I can't reach out to Muslims? I'm like, there are no contradictions in that.
Right.
We're to love and reach out to everybody. And that's part of what I love about the Crescent Project. And, and I think that, you know, I'm so grateful, Matt, in my life, even though my parents weren't practicing the Muslim religion, I'm so grateful that even though my grandfather and his second wife were, that some Christian person invited me to go to church. Without that reaching out, without that invitation, I would have never given my heart to Christ. So we can be afraid and distrustful, or we can try to build bridges and walk across them and see who is ready to be saved. And you're sharing that all kinds of Muslims are coming to Christ.
Amen. We're hearing about it almost every week. Well, literally every week we're hearing about it. But the other thing too is that we need to be ready to share, because Muslims are, you know, Islam is really a civilization. It's everything to them. They don't separate religion and politics. And so when you talk with them, you better be prepared to share the reason for the hope that you have, because they're going to talk about their faith and they're going to ask you spiritual questions right away. And so one of the things we encourage people to do is, you better know, why you have the hope that you have and the faith that you have, and be ready to share your testimony.
So if I do this 6 weeks Bridges study that you did at Crescent Project, would I be prepared to understand, you know, some of the cultural differences, traditions, how to be prepared to give the hope? Absolutely.
We believe so, because ultimately we are called to be ambassadors for Jesus, and it's really more about our availability and not our ability. You know, it's more about just us being willing to be vessels and ambassadors for Jesus to share, you know, the great truth and the good news with Muslims. And so, yes, absolutely, Bridges is a wonderful equipping program. It's a dynamic, it's powerful, and it really, we see it happen all the time. People overcome their fears and really feel confident and go out and start reaching out, and it's wonderful to see. It's exciting.
Yeah, because it's the heart of God being lived out, and I think that, you know, sometimes what happens, and obviously because of 9/11, that didn't help things.
Right.
And the things that we've heard, fear has settled into our hearts, and we've heard things about Islam and the way of life and the thoughts and so forth, and we just think, oh, that's not the heart of God, and it's not. But how are we going to respond to it?
That's right.
Are we going to love them through it enough to study, enough to witness, enough to pray, enough to support Crescent Project?
That's right.
Because I always say nothing good ever just happens. It takes God's people obeying.
It does.
And so we've talked about the prayer initiative that people can sign up, people that are feeling this burden like, oh, you know, I've sort of missed it. You know, I haven't realized that Muslims are important to Jesus too. But what beyond prayer, what else can we do, Matt?
Well, we'd love to invite people to join what we're calling the 15 Initiative. And this is an initiative to recruit and pull together 1,500 Christians from all over to join with us and agree to invest with us $15 a month to help us and empower us as a ministry to really expand our ministry and really go beyond and really achieve the vision we're trying to accomplish. So for just $15 a month, we can do so much, and 1,500 people is certainly attainable.
Absolutely.
And so that's our goal, is to achieve that.
We're talking about an achievable goal. And for those of us that have watched the news reports that talk about, you know, how all these mosques are building up and this and that, and that we should be afraid, here's an opportunity that Christians are wanting to move forward, because the ultimate answer to all of the political unrest and all
That's
of
right.
the brouhaha is that people would come to know Christ.
That's right. No one's immune to the gospel.
No.
I mean, I've had dinner with former jihadists.
Really?
Yes. I've had.
Okay, you have to tell. I mean, I know you can't use names, but I want to hear about some lives changed.
Yeah, I mean, former jihadists, former radical Muslims, people who came here for obviously for bad reasons, and just were changed by Christians who reached out, who loved them, who cared for them. So many stories. We don't have the time to go over all of them, but I mean, yeah, just former Sharia judges, people who were committed to the Sharia law. No one's immune to the gospel, and so we're seeing all over. In fact, great book, Dreams and Visions by Tom Doyle. Highly recommend it to the viewers out there. Tom, in his book, talks about the fact that he knows he's been reaching Muslims for 30 years. All over the world in Middle Eastern countries. And he said that he now knows former jihadists walking with Jesus in every Middle Eastern country.
That's amazing.
It's awesome.
That's amazing because, I think the picture, and I don't want to blame the media, I think everybody's probably doing the best that we can.
Yeah.
In Christian TV and in mainstream, we're doing what we think is right.
Sure.
But we're not. We see the picture and we hear about the, jihadists, and we hear, and we just think there's no way that they would ever give their hearts to Christ. And you've just said people.
Oh yes, absolutely.
That came to this country on a bad assignment.
Yes.
And found Jesus.
Amen. Yes.
And are they as radical as they served Jesus as they were to their former religion?
They're modern day Pauls. They really are, and it's so phenomenal to see God use them. To turn what was intended for bad and for evil into good. And that's the heart of God. It's redemptive in nature.
Absolutely.
And he's doing it all over the world. Yeah. Really is.
And that we would just be brave enough, just like you at one point in your life, that you're just concerned about the political thing, and you allow God to change the desire of your heart.
That's right.
And that's how it happens.
That's right.
For us just to be pliable, none of us have all the answers. We just let God change us so that we can be concerned for people.
That's right.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
It has been really wonderful to talk with you, and I am just thrilled to hear what God is doing.
Thank you so much.
You'll come back and share again sometime?
Definitely, absolutely.
Wonderful.
Love to.
We're so glad that you could join us today. And my heart in today's program is just for us all to just give the Holy Spirit a chance to change our hearts, that we would really be concerned for the Muslim people, that they would have an opportunity to come to Christ. That's the heart of God. We're out of time. We've got to go. But we say goodbye, and God bless you.
For more information on a guest, visit our website, ctntv.org.
Christ in our lives is not just a surface work. It goes deep down into the core of who we are. And the joy that Christ wants to produce in our lives is a joy that is of substance.
To schedule Monica to speak at your next event, contact her at monicaspeaks.com.
Check out www.ctntv.org. You can watch us streaming live, find out more about your favorite shows, learn how to create your own commercial spot, and join our prayer community. Be sure to visit www.ctntv.org today.
Prayer changes things. If you need prayer, write to the address on the screen. Call 615-754-0039 or email prayer@ctntv.org.
Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Monica Speaks TV today.
Thanks for watching Bridges.